Hello VC, Bradley here. I just want to show you a few 10-inch EPs that I bought in the last year. These are jazz releases. Most of them are reissues. But the first one is Eartha Kitt. This was released in 1954. It's called That Bad Eartha. It is on RCA Victor, right there. Like I said, this was recorded or released in 1954. Now in 1956, RCA released a 12-inch of this record, which has a few more additional songs. That's when they started releasing 12-inch and did away with the 10-inch format. Anyhow, it's got some little surface noise. More of easy listening, jazzy. Actually, it's pretty good. Now, Eartha Kitt, she was multi-talented. Singer, actress in the movies, Broadway, TV. In fact, she played Catwoman on Batman, I think in the last season. And then I think during the Vietnam War or something, she, made some political statements, and she kind of got blackballed from the, semi-blackballed from the industry. But, for 62 or 63 or 64 years old, this album sounds not too bad. Now the next two are Thelonious Monk, which I like these 10-inch EPs because you can, you can put a side on and it might go maybe 12 minutes. If you don't want to listen to a regular whole album, well, you can just put this on for, 4 or 5 songs. The first Thelonious Monk is, it's called The Genius of Modern Music. It's got Round About Midnight, Thelonious, a few others. And the second one, which that was released, I think was recorded in, I think the late 47 or so. Now the second one was recorded in, I believe, released in 52. And that's before Blue Note started issuing 12-inch LPs. So everything they released back then was on 12-inch EPs. Now if you notice the Blue Note numbers there, like LP 5002, and the bottom one is 5009. If you go online and see these numbers, that tells you if it's a 5000 series, 4 numbers, that tells you that you are looking at a 10-inch EP as opposed to a 12-inch LP. Because sometimes online, it's hard to get a good description. Like, is it 10-inch or 12-inch? So, but anyhow, he had he was backed up by Art Blakey on drums, Milt Jackson on vibes. So it's really good stuff. They're excellent. The next one is, it's also a Blue Note reissue. I think 2014 they re-released this. It is Clifford Brown, New Star on the Horizon. Now this was recorded in the early 50s. I'm not sure exactly when. In fact, I'm not exactly sure when he died. He didn't. He died very young, so it's kind of hard to find good Clifford Brown music. But once again, the number, you can tell, 5032, which tells you that it is a 10-inch EP. Now on this album, he's got a good lineup. Charlie Rouse on tenor sax, John Lewis piano, Percy Heath bass, and Art Blakey on drums. So this is excellent. Very good sounding. I think it's, well, I'm sure it's mono. Most of these 10-inch, well, maybe all of them are mono. Okay, now the next 10-inch EP is a John Coltrane. I believe it was a 2016 record day release, which I just bought it in late 2017. It was at a record shop. It's on mono. It's on the, originally it was on the Roulette record label. It's John Coltrane. It's called the Roulette Sides. It's the Coltrane Quartet, which is McCoy Tyner on piano, Steve Davis bass, Billy Higgins on drums. It was recorded in 1960. This is really good. I like the earlier Coltrane. Some of the later stuff I have a hard time. I like Love Supreme. But he started getting in a little more in his freer stage. Whereas these early recordings, they're more of a regular hard bop vein. Very good. Now it's on the Roulette album, or label, which they were bought out by, I can't remember who it was, some big record company, conglomerate. The original Roulette label, one of the founders was, I think his name was Morris Levy. He went on to actually own Birdland also. He had dubious business practices. He was associated with the mob, with the Genovese crime family, and eventually the FBI charged him with a bunch of crimes, money laundering, heroin distribution, etc. But he ended up dying, I think, before he appealed or something. So anyhow, they had a pretty good variety of recording artists during the 50s and 60s. Pretty much every genre, you know. Tommy James and the Shondells recorded for them. And Tommy James said in the studio, they were allowed to do anything they wanted to. Whereas other record labels would kind of tell you, that's not poppy enough or something. You can't, we're not going to do that. So they had complete artistic freedom. The only problem is the Roulette artists, they were not paid their royalties the way they should have been. Tommy James estimates that he lost out on, which this is his estimate, but he says he lost out on $30 to $40 million in royalties, which actually it could be true because when, I'm not sure it was Universal or whatever record company bought Roulette out, Tommy said he started getting royalty checks, and they would be 6 figures and 7 figures. So you're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars or millions of dollars. So he might have been correct in that. But anyhow, that's a little history of Roulette Records. And this last one has a little connection to that little story because it's Art Blakey Quintet, A Night at Birdland, which Morris Levy owned Birdland. This has got Clifford Brown on trumpet, Lou Donaldson, alto sax, Horace Silver, piano, Curly Russell bass, and Art Blakey on drums. Wow, can't get much better than that. And this is one of those, the old 5000 series Blue Note. Now originally, this was recorded, boy, when was that? 54 or something? Kind of early. Yeah, early 50s, 54, 55. And this was when they were still releasing the 10-inch EPs before they started switching over to 12-inch. So what they did, they had 3 volumes. This is volume 1. Now they released 2 other volumes called volume 2 and volume 3. And if I remember correctly, it had this color or this picture art was the same on each one, but the colors, like this is blue. So volume 2 was, I can't remember what it was, red colors in here, and it said volume 2. So on volume 3. Well, anyhow, a few years later, after this was recorded, they switched over to the 12-inch. So they have volume 1 and volume 2. That's what it's called on 12-inch. But it gets confusing because you have 3 volumes on 10-inch, and what they did, they took those songs and kind of split them up onto 2 albums, just making volume 1 and volume 2 on the 12-inch. And I think they added a few more songs. So it gets very confusing. And the cover art is different on the 12-inch, completely different cover art. But I believe on volume 1 and volume 2 they use the same art, but they have different colors, similar to this. So anyhow, I bought this one in a record store. These were reissues Blue Notes from, I think, 2014 somewhere. And they had volume 1, and I love 10-inch. So I bought that. I thought, well, I'll just pick up eventually volume 2 and volume 3 on the 10-inch. It gets really confusing. I think volume 3 was only a Japanese release, and volume 2, I think they made them, but maybe they sold out or something, and they're not available anymore. So it gets whatever, really confusing. But get any of these on 10-inch, or I would probably recommend getting the 12-inch because you can find them anywhere. Get the 2 volumes, and you will be very happy with them, I think. So this is Bradley. That's all for today. Have a good day.